Lieutenant Marrakeen stood in the observation bay of the Vigilance, watching the stars streak past in ribbons of distorted light. The ship hummed with the rhythm of 1,000 systems working in harmony, but her attention was fixed on the chaos unfolding in the training room below. 6 Tharn cubs tumbled over each other in a writhing mass of fur, claws, and enthusiastic snarls. They were supposed to be learning basic combat formations. Instead, they were engaged in what could only be described as organized mayhem. Again, Mara muttered, rubbing her temples. They're doing it again. Commander Vexillar, her Tharn superior, clicked his mandibles in what might have been amusement. His species, towering feline predators from a high-gravity world, had evolved to be the apex hunters of their planet. Their young were no different. Every instinct screamed competition, hierarchy, dominance. They are young, Vexillar rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. The pack instinct is strong. They must establish order. They're supposed to be establishing a defensive perimeter, not recreating a wrestling match, Mara replied, though her tone held no real frustration. She'd been working with the cubs for 3 months now, and she'd grown surprisingly fond of the little terrors. The youngest of the pack, Rix, broke free from the pile and bounded toward the equipment locker, his golden eyes locked onto a cleaning rag that had been left on the bench. Before Mara could react, Rix snatched it in his jaws and took off across the training floor. Instantly, the other 5 cubs abandoned their skirmish and gave chase. Vexillar's ears flattened. This is unacceptable. They ignore the drill entirely. Mara watched the cubs scramble after Rix, their massive paws skidding on the polished floor. The smallest cub, Kira, launched herself onto Rix's back while the largest, Thane, cut him off at the corner. Within seconds, all 6 were locked in a tug-of-war over a dirty piece of cloth. And then Mara smiled. "Commander," she said slowly, "what if we're thinking about this all wrong?" Vexillar's tail lashed. "Explain." "Humans have been training with animals for thousands of years. Dogs, horses, birds of prey. We learned early that you don't fight instinct. You redirect it." She gestured toward the cubs. "They're hunters. Everything is a competition. Everything is prey or prize. So why are we trying to drill them like soldiers when we should be making them want to follow orders?" Vexillar regarded her with those unblinking amber eyes. "You propose games? I propose we make training feel like hunting." Mara's grin widened. "Watch this." She descended the stairs to the training floor. The cubs, still engaged in their rag war, barely noticed her approach. Mara waited until Thane managed to wrench the cloth free. Then she did something that would have horrified any Tharn military instructor. She snatched the rag from Thane's jaws. 6 pairs of eyes locked onto her. 6 bodies went still. The air crackled with sudden tension. "Oh, you want this?" Mara asked, holding the rag aloft. "Come and get it." She tossed it across the room. The cubs exploded into motion. They hit the floor running, claws scrabbling for purchase, muscles bunching and releasing with predatory grace. Rix reached it first, but Kira was right behind him. Thane barreled through both of them like a freight train. The rag changed hands, paws, 3 times in as many seconds. Mara let them fight over it for a moment. Then she whistled sharply. "Formation Delta." The cubs ignored her naturally. They were too focused on their prize, so Mara pulled out a second rag. She waved it over her head. "New target." "Formation Delta gets the prize." Kira's head snapped up, her eyes fixed on the new rag, then darted to her packmates. Mara could almost see the calculation happening behind those golden eyes. Rix noticed next, then Thane. Slowly, with visible reluctance, the cubs began to move into position. It was sloppy. Rix was too far forward, and Thane kept glancing back at the first rag. But they formed something resembling the defensive formation they'd been drilling all week. "Hold," Mara commanded. The cubs trembled with barely contained energy. "Hold." She tossed the rag. They broke formation instantly, surging forward in a coordinated rush that would have made their ancestors proud. But Mara had seen the moment of hesitation, the brief instant when instinct yielded to training. It was a start. Over the next hour, Mara ran them through every formation in the manual. Each time the reward was the same, a rag, a piece of rope, once even her own glove. The cubs learned fast. By the end of the session, they were holding formation for nearly 10 seconds before the release command. Vexillar descended to the training floor, his expression unreadable. The cubs, exhausted and panting, sprawled across the deck in a loose pile. Rix had claimed the final rag and was gnawing on it contentedly. "This is highly unorthodox," Vexlar said. "Yes, sir. It lacks the discipline of traditional Tharn training methods." "Yes, sir. It treats warriors as if they were—" He paused, searching for the word. "Pets," Mara straightened. "With respect, Commander, they're not warriors yet. They're cubs. And humans learned a long time ago that if you want loyalty, if you want enthusiasm, if you want someone to follow you into hell itself, you make them want to do it. You make training rewarding. You make discipline feel like victory." Vexlar was silent for a long moment. Then he turned to face her fully. "Run the formation drill again. All 7 cubs." "Sir, there are only 6, 7, Vexlar interrupted. "I will join them." Mara blinked. The commander of the Tharn military contingent, a decorated warrior with 4 decades of service, wanted to compete for a rag. But when she looked at his face, she saw something she'd never seen before in a Tharn: curiosity. And perhaps, just perhaps, the faintest flicker of playfulness. Mara grinned. She pulled a fresh rag from her belt. "All right, Commander. Formation Delta. On my mark." 7 pairs of eyes locked onto the cloth, 7 bodies tensed. Even Vexillar, for all his dignity, couldn't suppress the slight twitching of his tail. Mara raised the rag high. "Mark!" She tossed it across the floor, and the cubs, all 7 of them, scrambled over it like a prize. And in that moment, Lieutenant Mara Keen understood something profound. Humans hadn't conquered the stars through superior firepower or advanced technology. They'd done it by understanding that every species, no matter how fierce or proud, had something they wanted to chase, something they wanted to win. Sometimes all it took was a rag and the wisdom to know when to throw it.